Hi, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. We had a request by email to take a look at today's hard puzzle from the New York Times. This appeared on Sunday, February 17th, and it's up on screen there. Now, the thing I would encourage you to do before I go into how I would solve this is just take a stare at the grid and see if you can spot a very clever way immediately to make a nice bit of progress. This is a trick that we see in the New York Times over and over again. It's almost a fault, I think, in their software because it's so common. I'd say, I don't know, almost every New York Times hard puzzle that I look at has this same trick that you need to spot early on, and if you do spot it, the puzzle becomes an awful lot easier. So what we're looking for is sort of a hidden triple, or the way I like to describe it is a way in which the contents of a 3x3 block have a profound impact on a row or column. So normally when we solve Sudoku, for example, if we were solving row 1 of this Sudoku, we'd have, I don't know why the 6 is suddenly appearing here, let's get rid of this. If we look at row 1 here, we would look along row 1 and we might have a look at this position in column 2, and we would compare the contents of row 1 with the contents of column 2. We might see this 2 as well here, and we would try and limit the contents of this square. So simple elimination. I mean, that at the end of the day is what Sudoku puzzles are. But the way in which the New York Times puzzle likes to stretch us is it asks us to focus on rows and columns that tend to have very few given digits in them. But where those rows or columns interact with a block, a 3x3 block, some pretty profound things happen. So you may say, well, what are you talking about? Well, I'm going to show you a great example now. So let's have a look at the interaction of this central 3x3 block on row 4 of this puzzle. See if you can spot something interesting. And the key numbers here are the 8 and the 3. So the 8 and 3 obviously have a profound effect on these 3 squares in row 4. We can't have a 3 or an 8 in any of these positions. But look there, we've also got a 3 and an 8 affecting this square. So all of a sudden, right at the start, before we have put any number in the grid, any pencil mark in the grid, we know that those 2 squares have to be the numbers 3 and 8, because there is no other position in row 4 that can contain the numbers 3 and 8. And this is such a powerful deduction. And let's see what it does to how we can go about solving the puzzle. So what would I do now? I'd look at 4s probably, these 2 4s. It's got to be a 4 in one of these 2 squares, and look, there's a 4 there. So this square is going to have to be a 4. And immediately this 3/8 comes into play, because now we have a 4 here and a 4 here, and a 4 over here, look. So we know that the 4 is actually locked into this position. It's the only place a 4 can go. But if we hadn't spotted this 3/8 pair first thing, we could have also placed the 4 in this square. We wouldn't have known the 4 couldn't go in this position. So immediately this 3/8 has been extremely helpful. Now we can pencil mark some 4s there. 9s. 9, 9 and this 9 mean that this is the only position in this 3x3 block that a 9 could go into. And if we look now, we can place 9s into those 2 squares. It's the only 2 positions 9s can go. And we also have a 9 here, look. So this 9 is preventing a 9 from going in any of these 3 positions. Now, that means we don't know where the 9 goes in this 3x3 block, but we do know it's either going to be here in column 4 or in one of these 2 squares, which are in column 6. Now that means that the 9 in this 3x3 block is in the same column as the 9 in this 3x3 block, i.e. it's got to be in column 4 or 6 in this 3x3 block, and it's got to be in column 4 or 6 in this 3x3 block. So we know that however these 9s resolve themselves, there can't be any more 9s in columns 4 or column 6, because if there were any more 9s, for instance, if this square here was a 9, let's just show you what I mean. Let's imagine this was a 9. Then the impact of that on this 3x3 block would be to force a 9 into one of these two squares. But then where could we put a 9 in this 3x3 block? There would be nowhere to put a 9. It couldn't go here because we've got a 9 here already. It couldn't go here because there would be a 9 in one of these two positions. So we know that the 9 in this 3x3 block is forced into one of these three squares. And we have a 9 there. So in fact, we can go a bit further. We know it's in one of those two squares. And this 9 and this 9 interact. We know a 9 is in one of those two positions. And then using this 9 in one of these two positions. Now, can we go any further with 9s? Maybe, but I'm not immediately seeing how to. So let's keep going. Maybe we should do the numbers in some sort of systematic order for once. So 2s are into those two positions because of these two 2s. 2, 2. Ah, okay. Now, we can again focus on this 3x3 block, and we could have done this at the beginning. 2. No, actually I was about to say something silly. I was looking at the numbers 1, 6 and 2 and where they're forcing the numbers to be in this 3x3 block, but I don't think what I was about to say was quite right. So we'll come back to 2s. Let's carry on with 3s. 2 3s here, 2 7s here. So in fact, that means these two squares have to be 3 and 7. So 3, 7 double, and we have a 3 here. So this square is going to be a 3, this is going to be a 7. That means we get 3s into those two positions. And in fact, look at the 7s now. That means this square is the only place a 7 can go in this 3x3 block because of the interaction of these two 7s. So the moment we place this 7, we know this must be the 3. Let's mark 3s there, look. One of these two positions will be a 3 as well. And 7, 7, and this 7 mean this square must be a 7. And that means one of these two positions is a 7 over this side of the grid. These two 7s mean one of these two positions is 7, and these two 7s mean one of those two positions is 7. Now, here, all of the 7s don't align in columns very nicely, so I don't think we can do much more with 7s at this point. We can pencil mark, 3s. So this 3 and this 3 interact on this block. There's a 3 in one of these two places. That means there's a 3 in one of those two positions. 4's in one of these two positions from these two 4's. And 4's in one of those two positions from this 4 here. Obviously that means there isn't a 4 in one of these three squares, so the 4 must be shifted over because of this square, and that means this can't be a 4. So that means that's a 4. Let's move on to 5s. 5, 5, so there's a 5 in one of these two squares. Don't seem to be many 5s in the grid generally, actually. But there, look. The fact that we know this is a 3 or an 8 means that the 5 in this 3x3 block, because of this 5, is forced into one of these three squares. Therefore, the 5 in this 3x3 block is forced into one of those two squares. And that is absolutely beautiful, because look what happens now. We can now do this trick we did with the 9s, we can do it with the 5s, but it's going to be very profound in terms of what it achieves, because we know the 5s in this 3x3 block are locked into column 4 and column 5. Where can the 5s go here? Only in columns 4 and 5 again. So however these 5s resolve themselves in these two 3x3 blocks that I'm outlining with the cursor, it won't be possible for there to be 5s in any of these 3 squares. Again, that's going to force a repeated 5 in a column if we were to try and put a 5 in any of these 3 positions. Now therefore, the 5s have got to go into those 2 positions in this 3x3 block. And you'll notice, if you're looking across here, that the fact that there is a 5 in row 1 or row 2 in this 3x3 block mirrors the positions of the 5s in this 3x3 block, i.e. row 1 and row 2. So coming over to this 3x3 block, we cannot have a 5 here, here, or here. Therefore, this has to be a 5, and that, I think, is going to be enough to completely crack the puzzle. Let's see. Place the 5. We pencil mark the 5s. We pencil mark 5s down here. The fact that we put a 5 here means this must be the 3. It's the only place a 3 can now go in this 3x3 block. When we place this 3, the effect of that is that this has to be a 3. Only place a 3 can now go in this 3x3 block. The moment we do that, we know this is part of a 3-8 double, so this has to be an 8. The moment we do that, we can pencil mark some 8s over there, look. We can pencil mark some 8s over here. And we can put a 1, and is it a 6? Yes, a 1 and a 6 into these 2 squares. 6, 6. It's going to be a 6 in one of these 3 positions, but we don't know which one. And can we do anything with 1s? I don't think so. In fact, there are very few 1s in the grid, all told. Anyway, but there we go. That's a really nice bit of logic we were able to employ there to make more progress. And I think I've still only got as far as working through the numbers up to 5. Let's check 6s now. 6, 6, 6. So we've just done 6s there. 6. Okay, can't see anything more with 6s. We did 7s earlier. I think we did those out of order. Let's move on to 8s. 8s. 8s here. We get an 8-4 pair down the bottom there. Those are only positions 8s can go in this 3x3 block. Lots and lots of 3s, 4s, 7s and 8s in the grid in general. So this 4-8 here isn't as useful as I was hoping it would be. Can we do anything with 9s straight away? We did a little bit with 9s earlier, didn't we? 7, 4, 8 and 5. Let's just check this column here. We need a 1, 2 or a 5. So this is a 1 or a 2, 1, 2 or 5, that's no use. 6 here. Oh, there we go. The fact we've managed to pencil mark the 5s in here is really lovely as well, because now look at the effect of the 1 and the 6. I don't know where the 1 and the 6 go in this 3x3 block, but I do know they're not in these 2 squares. Therefore, they've got to be in these 3 squares, and they're going to join these pencil marked 5s that I've put in. So this means that these 3 squares form a triple on the numbers 1, 5 and 6 somehow. I don't know how they are arranged, but this must be true. And therefore these 2 numbers here are forced to be 2 and 9 to complete the grid. We can put the 2 and the 9 in. Now that helps us to know where the 9 is in the top 3x3 block. It's got to be there. And these 2 squares here are going to have to be 5 and 8 now, I think. I think that's right. 5 and 8 into those 2 positions. That means these 2 squares are 1 and 2. That resolves the earlier pencil mark. So now we've got 2 here and a 2 in one of these 2 positions. Therefore, the 2 in this 3x3 block is forced upwards into this square. It's the only position left for a 2. Remove the 2 there. This is going to be the 2. The moment I can place this 2, I'm also going to be able to place the 5, but let's use the pencil marks first. So we have 2, 2. There's got to be a 2 in one of these two squares. Let's place the 5. That means this has got to be a 5. I'm winding the earlier pencil marks as well. That means this is an 8. 5. So now this 3, maybe I could have done something with that 3 earlier. Actually, it seems to be pointing at pencil marks over there, so I probably missed that. Apologies. So that 7 now means this is a 7 and this is a 9. That resolves the 9 and the 2. So mark some 2's in there. Remove the pencil mark 7 there. Now when I remembered now, when I placed this 8, I could have unwound the pencil mark 3. And as usual with the New York Times, the 3's all change font now. When you completed a digit, it all changes. So this has got to be 1 and 6 into the... Oh no, sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know why I did that. My bad. 1 and 6 into these two squares, like that. 1 and 6, I think, into these two squares, like that. So now we have a 1, 6 double down here. And if we look down column 8, we need to place the numbers 1 and 6. In fact, the whole thing's fallen apart now, hasn't it? 7's completed there. 7, 4, 9 like that. That's got to be a 9. This square here is a 1 or a 6. Well, it can only be a 1 because there's a 6 there. So that's going to be a 1, 1, 6, 1, 6. This should be 2 and 6, I think, if everything's working smoothly. This has now got to be a 6 as well, like so. This has now got to be a 6. That unwinds the 6 and the 2. That means this is a 2. This has to be a 5 now to complete this. 5, 1, 1, 2, like that. And yeah, it's just an exercise now in filling in the rest of the puzzle. There's nothing complicated left to do. You need to put a 6 into these two squares. Let's do that. Like that. You can see that means this is the only place now that a 5 can go, I think, in this block, because the 8's and the 6's are forced over into these two positions. So that's going to be a 5. That resolves the 5's. Remove the pencil mark 5 here. 1's into these two squares. What's that going to be? I feel like I'm missing the absolutely obvious here. So this is 1, 6 or 8. This is 1, 8. I think this square. This has got to be a 1 or a 2. What's this square then? 4 or 8? So there we go. That's the resolution, because there's a 4 up there. So in fact, this square here has to be an 8. 8, 4 like that. 8 and 6 like that. That resolves the 6 and the 1. That resolves the 2 and the 1. That resolves the 1 there. And that's going to be a 2. And there we go. So a nice New York Times puzzle that was sort of replete with the tricks of the trade that you need to solve it. And we could make a lot of progress just by staring at the initial position, not entering any numbers, but just sort of appreciating that meta puzzle that comes up over and over again, looking for hidden triples. And I hope I explained that well enough that it'll help you with your solving. If you enjoy the content, please do subscribe to the channel. Some of you may be able, in a position to sponsor us on Patreon. You can find the link in the description of the video, and we would really appreciate that. That would be great. Give us a thumbs up, send us your comments, we really appreciate it. I'm back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.